Welcome to Anime Saga. Let's jump straight into the recap. Saito, a high school senior who just turned 18, had always been ranked first in school. The girl standing before him, Akane, was the second-ranked student and his most troublesome rival. She often picked fights with him over trivial matters, like complaining that he didn't clean the blackboard properly. Saito found her constant nitpicking incredibly annoying. That evening, Saito received a call from his grandfather, summoning him for an important discussion. Although reluctant, he had no choice but to go. Soon, he was surrounded by his grandfather's subordinates. His grandfather, Saito Tenryu, was a powerful figure who had transformed the family business into a world-class IT company during an economic downturn. Upon arriving at the meeting place, Saito was shocked to find Akane there as well. Akane had thought she was only there to have a meal with her grandmother, but she unexpectedly ran into Saito again. Naturally, their argument resumed. Just then, Saito's grandfather and Akane's grandmother arrived. Seeing the two quarrel, Saito immediately questioned why they had been called here. His grandfather then explained the reason. His time couldn't be reversed. They wanted Saito and Akane to fulfill their unfinished love story by getting married. Both immediately refused. However, the grandparents were prepared for rejection. With a clap of his hands, Saito's grandfather had a stray dog brought in and declared, "If you don't agree to marry, I will make this dog the heir of the Saito group. The entire family's future will be in jeopardy." Though the demand was absurd, Saito knew his grandfather never joked. He began to waver. The grandparents then made a dramatic exit, leaving the two behind, both feeling as though they were being blackmailed. Saito wanted to know what Akane's grandmother had said, but she hesitated over whether to agree to the marriage, so she called her best friend, Himari, for advice. Himari asked if she had someone she liked. Akane's standard answer was, "I don't have anyone I like, but there is someone I absolutely despise." Himari suggested, "Since you don't like anyone, does it really matter if you marry?" Akane gave their answer to their grandparents. To everyone's surprise, they both agreed to the marriage. Saito's grandfather didn't want to delay matters. "You're getting married now. I've already prepared a house for you." He immediately took them to a newly built villa. "You know how I operate. Don't even think about running away." Saito knew his grandfather was too domineering to argue with, but he had to admit the house was well furnished. As they explored the place, Akane suddenly noticed something shocking. There was only one bed. Their grandfather smirked. "That was intentional. You two are married now, of course you should sleep together." Saito immediately started checking for surveillance cameras. Meanwhile, Akane, realizing that she would be alone in a house with Saito, began to panic. "You're definitely planning to force yourself on me." So they began unpacking their belongings. Saito tried to help Akane out of kindness, but she kept avoiding him, afraid that he would take advantage of the situation. Saito dismissed her concerns, telling her not to flatter herself. He had no such thoughts about her. When bedtime arrived, they had to face the most critical part, sharing the same bed. Even though Saito had no romantic interest in Akane, sleeping next to a beautiful girl was still a challenge for his self-control. After calming down, they established 3 ground rules. This suited Saito perfectly. It helped them conceal their marriage. The next day at school, Akane warned Saito not to reveal their relationship under any circumstances. But he almost forgot about his sharp-nosed younger sister. "Brother, your scent is different today. It smells like a girl's perfume." As it turned out, Saito's sister had already been suspicious of their grandfather's behavior and had done some digging. She now knew where Saito's new home was and that his bride was Akane. Then Saito went out and stocked the fridge with instant noodles, believing they were the ultimate combination of affordability, convenience, and taste. Akane was horrified. Determined to show him what real food was, she decided to cook for him. However, her cooking process looked so intense that Saito began to suspect she was poisoning the food. But when he tasted it, he was shocked. It was delicious. The moment she looked away, Saito snatched the food back and devoured every last bite. Bathroom trash. Akane was horrified to learn that Saito only cleaned up once a month. Saito retorted, "Our values are completely different. Is this marriage even worth maintaining?" Saito found himself unable to look away. But as a gentleman, he quickly turned to leave. However, something felt off. He rushed back in and pulled Akane out of the water, only to slip and fall, landing directly underneath her. That exact moment, Akane woke up. Saito was immediately kicked out of the bathroom. He didn't bother explaining that he had actually saved her from drowning. Meanwhile, Akane was mortified. Did he see everything? However, knowing Saito's character, she started to wonder, was I really? Saito coldly brushed her off. The next day, still feeling dejected, Akane turned to Himari for advice. Himari told her, "If you want to get along with someone, it's not about making them respect you, it's about learning to respect them first." On the other side, Saito's sister noticed his troubled expression and decided to help him out. "If you really can't stand that girl, why not just divorce her?" she suggested. But her words struck a chord with Saito. That evening, when he got home, Akane suddenly grabbed his hand. She also had something to discuss. They began negotiating strategies for coexisting in the house. First issue was household chores. Saito, following his efficiency theory, preferred to let dishes and laundry pile up before dealing with them. This infuriated Akane. But then, Saito remembered his sister's advice and, in a rare moment, compromised. He agreed to wash the dishes and do laundry daily. This small concession softened Akane's attitude toward him. After a long discussion, they established ground rules for their future life together. Finally, Akane made one more request. She hoped Saito would praise her cooking. That night, before bed, Akane called Himari to thank her cooking a feast. During the meal, Saito noticed her expectant gaze, so he made sure to compliment her food as promised. To his surprise, Akane's smile made his heart skip a beat. But just as things were improving, an unexpected problem arose, willing to back down, so they settled on a mutual compromise. Through this process, they realized that the other person wasn't as unbearable as they had initially thought. Their relationship became noticeably less tense. Akane even invited Saito to watch a movie together. Turned out to be a cat documentary. Seeing his reluctance, Akane suggested, "Then I'll do something you enjoy instead." Saito preferred gaming over movies. Saito found it oddly amusing. That night, they shared a bed as usual. When Saito woke up in the middle of the night, he gently pulled the blanket over Akane. Coincidentally, she woke up at that moment and thanked him. Saito smiled and admitted, "I actually had fun with you today." After that, their usual school arguments disappeared. Even when Saito helped Akane with something trivial like cutting an eraser, she didn't immediately start scolding him. Himari, witnessing their unusual harmony, was dumbfounded. "Did you two make up or something?" She was shocked to see her brother reading a book on improving communication skills. Saito had learned from the book that shared activities could strengthen bonds, so he decided to test it out. He invited Akane to go grocery shopping together. Akane, misunderstanding the situation, blushed furiously. "Hey, are you asking me out on a date?" Saito quickly clarified, "No, we're just buying ingredients together. Carrying everything alone is a hassle." As luck would have it, Himari, who usually worked after school, was free and wanted to go home with Akane. Although Himari was extinct and matched the best bargains, Saito was impressed and even joined in on the discount battle. For the first time, he saw Akane in a new light. "I never knew you were so practical," he admitted. "You'll make a great wife someday." That night, Akane woke up and found Saito staring at her. She was startled. Is this it? Has his inner beast finally awakened? Saito, realizing he'd been caught, confessed. Explaining, Akane turned to him and exclaimed, "Why did you come out here without a shirt?" It seemed that after what happened the previous night, both of them had become exams. For some time, Saito specially prepared a late-night snack for Akane. She couldn't help but wonder, why is this guy suddenly being so snack? Due to her lack of sleep, Akane eventually collapsed in the school hallway. Himari rushed over to check on her, urging her to rest more. I must beat Saito. That night, as usual, Saito brought her a late-night snack, but when he got closer, he noticed Akane's face was flushed. Testing her forehead with his hand, he realized she had a fever. Without hesitation, he carried her to bed to rest. Even while sick, Akane mumbled about wanting to continue studying. Saito soon learned the real reason she was pushing herself so hard. It wasn't just about beating him. Her dream was to become a doctor. However, her family couldn't afford medical school. Her grandmother had promised that if she married Saito, all her tuition fees would be covered. After he considered calling an ambulance, but Akane weakly said that no taxis were available. With no other choice, he carried Akane to the hospital himself. During the journey, Akane, despite her fever, was surprised by his strength. For the first time, Saito heard Akane talk about her dream. He was deeply moved and admired her and their relationship improved significantly. When the exams ended, Saito once again scored a perfect 100. Himari, full of admiration, suddenly leaned in close, so prevented her from expressing her true feelings. Saito's younger sister, however, saw through everything. Every morning, Akane started preparing Saito's bento. When he opened it at school one day, his sister suddenly appeared beside him. "I remember you already ate breakfast," Saito remarked. "But this is different," she insisted. "I want to know what an Itsuma bento tastes like." The moment Saito heard those words, he instinctively clapped his hand over her mouth. Just then, Himari noticed something strange. Saito's bento looked exactly the same as Akane's. Their classmates also caught on and gathered around. Akane immediately denied any connection between them, but the suspicion remained. Before they could compare their bentos, Saito's sister devoured his entire meal in one go. During break time, Himari cornered Saito to confirm her suspicions. Saito, keeping his cool, made up a random excuse. "It was just a coincidence, we happened to use the same frozen food." Hearing Saito personally deny any romantic involvement with Akane, Himari felt relieved. That night, as usual, the two of them shared a bed. Suddenly, a strange noise startled Akane awake. She thought she saw a shadow moving in the room and was terrified. Saito woke up to her scream but saw nothing unusual. However, Akane was so frightened that she couldn't go back to sleep. The next night, it happened again. Akane burst into Saito's study, trembling. "I heard footsteps running around in the living room," she whispered. But Saito remained skeptical. "Then why don't you record it with your phone as proof?" From that point on, Akane clung to Saito wherever he went, even to the bathroom. She even insisted he accompany her when she took a bath. Saito, struggling to maintain his sanity, resorted to deep philosophical thinking just to stay composed. At school the next day, Saito's sister immediately noticed his troubled expression. "You're worried about your wife, aren't you?" she teased. Saito sighed. "She keeps saying there's a ghost in the house and won't leave me alone." His sister's playful demeanor suddenly turned serious. "What if there really is a ghost? Let me come over and investigate." And so, Shizui began examining their house for supernatural activity. "The energy in your room is bad," she declared ominously. "If you don't exorcise the spirits soon, things will only get worse." That evening, she followed them back to their marital home. As she examined Sato's study, she unexpectedly found his pants. Without thinking, she picked them up and sniffed them. Saito noticed something was wrong and wrestled with Shizui for control. Then, they began investigating Akane's study. Shizui pretended to think deeply before revealing the truth. It wasn't a ghost haunting the house. She had been sneaking in to play around. Relieved that there was no ghost, Akane relaxed significantly. Turned out that after learning about her brother's marriage, Shizui immediately asked their grandfather for a key to the house. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to disturb the sweet honeymoon phase of you newlyweds. Now that the matter was resolved, she demanded compensation. I hope you'll treat me to dinner as revenge. Having tasted Akane's bento before and found it delicious, Shizuai couldn't resist praising her cooking. Despite being tricked, Akane couldn't stay mad after receiving such a compliment. That moment, Saito noticed a grain of rice on Shizuai's cheek and instinctively wiped it away. Seeing this, Akane felt a pang of jealousy. Later, Saito played video games with Shizuai after dinner. Watching them having fun together, Akane's jealousy only grew stronger. When Shizuai insisted on joining Akane in the bath, Akane finally reached her limit. Finally, when it was time for bed, Akane was happy to finally have Saito to herself. She wanted Saito to teach her how to play games, but he hadn't played with her before because he always saw her studying. Eventually, Akane couldn't hold back and brought up Saito's relationship with Shizuai. Just then, a small hand unexpectedly touched her. Thinking Saito was teasing her, she turned to scold him, only for Saito to also feel someone tickling him. They started blaming each other, but Shizuai quickly interrupted, wanting to sleep with her brother too. Once Saito was asleep, Shizuai whispered to him, "You've always been dense. But seeing how close you two are, I feel a little relieved." One day, Akane noticed that Himari and her husband seemed too close. Despite being stubborn, Akane somehow ended up acting as their matchmaker. However, when Himari confessed to Saito and asked him out, Akane started to panic. Before that, Himari had approached Akane and directly asked, "Do you like Saito?" As always, Akane refused to admit it. Himari then revealed her own feelings. "I like Saito. Back when we were preparing for the sports festival, my friend collapsed from heat stroke. Everyone panicked, but Saito stayed calm and handled the situation." Hearing this, Akane suddenly recalled the night Saito carried her to the hospital when she had a high fever. Himari admitted that she liked Saito but lacked confidence, so she was still in the secret crush phase. "Akane, you seem close to Saito. If possible, could you help me get together with him?" Following her friend's request, Akane started observing Saito's daily habits. However, her constant staring made Saito feel uncomfortable. Even during meals, Akane recorded videos on her phone. She gathered information about his preferences and relayed it to Himari at school. Himari was delighted with the details, while Shizuai watched the exchange thoughtfully. That night, Saito expected a steak dinner since Akane had been asking about his favorite foods. Although she hadn't planned it at first, seeing Saito's eager anticipation made her want to fulfill his expectations. It was her first time making steak, but she was confident and excited for his feedback. After tasting it, Saito said, "I love every dish you make. It's so good I'd love to eat it every day." Hearing this, Akane became flustered. The next day at school, Himari questioned Saito about his ideal type. "Love isn't just about types. Categories are just a limited way of thinking. If you don't truly understand someone, you can't fall for them," Saito replied. "If it's someone you know well, then you should be able to tell whether you like them or not, right?" That evening, Akane found a notebook labeled "Confidential" on the table. Curious, she reached for it, only for Saito to appear behind her, scaring her. Flustered, she blurted out, "I didn't see anything." Then, in a classic case of guilty conscience, she accused him instead. "You deliberately left that notebook out, knowing I'd sneak into your room, didn't you?" Saito was speechless. To change the subject, he recommended a few books to Akane, which she then passed on to Himari. However, since Himari wasn't great at studying, she struggled to understand them. "I'm sorry," Akane apologized. "It's fine. If I don't understand something, I can just ask Saito," Himari reassured her. Watching Himari excitedly run toward her husband, Akane felt a strange, indescribable emotion. Surprisingly, Saito didn't mind Himari approaching him. He felt indebted to her because, whenever he argued with Akane, Himari would mediate between them. Himari then opened up about her past. "In elementary school, I was bullied. Thanks to Sato's help, I was able to overcome it. Being acknowledged by him makes me really happy. Meanwhile, Shizuya noticed Akane's troubled expression. Are you worried about my relationship with Himari? Akane, as always, refused to admit it. Through a conversation with Saito, Himari felt really happy. She believed that being able to get close to him was all thanks to Akane. Let's go buy your favorite strawberry cake and then head to your place to chat for a while. Akane also felt good about the idea, until she suddenly realized that if Himari found out she was living with Saito, she'd be doomed. Panicking, she quickly lied, saying her house had flooded. Even though Himari was a bit naive, she still saw through the lie. Do you not want me to visit your place? With no way to refuse, Akane quickly hid Sato's belongings and made him stay in the study before Himari arrived. But before he could finish hiding, Himari showed up much faster than expected. Saito told Akane to stall for time while he finished tidying up. However, before he could get everything in order, he suddenly heard Himari's voice inside the house, forcing him to hide behind a cabinet. That moment, Shizuya suddenly sent a message, and the phone's ringtone made Himari suspicious. Akane quickly made up an excuse to cover it up. Himari's main reason for visiting was to discuss her feelings for Saito. She had finally gathered the courage to ask him out on a date. Outside the room, Shizuya whispered to Akane, "Are you really okay with not stopping them?" Akane hesitated but ultimately replied, "I don't want to betray Himari's trust." Shizuya sighed. "I just hope you can be honest with yourself." Later that night, Saito told Akane about Himari's invitation, but she didn't try to stop him. The next morning, just before leaving, Saito asked again, "If you don't want me to go, I won't." But Akane stubbornly replied, "Do whatever you want." However, when Saito actually turned to leave, Akane couldn't hold back and suddenly hugged him from behind. In reality, Saito had already turned down the date. He only mentioned it to see how Akane would react. Seeing her flustered and blushing, he couldn't help but feel happy. Afterward, he invited Akane to go shopping together. The next day at school, Saito was surprised to see Himari approach him again. "I thought I already rejected you. Why are you still here?" Himari confidently replied, "I won't give up. If I get rejected once, I'll just try again." At that moment, Shizuya appeared, declaring, "I won't allow my brother to be with just anyone." Meanwhile, Akane noticed something interesting. Saito seemed to have a weakness for straightforward girls. Not wanting to lose to Himari, Akane finally dropped her usual tsundere act and honestly expressed her feelings. To her surprise, it worked like a charm. Afterward, Saito was the one learned about from Akane. Although Saito tried to refuse, he couldn't resist her persistence and had no choice but to accept. Himari enjoyed the process of feeding Saito, but Akane, watching from the side, was burning with frustration. Seizing the opportunity, Shizuya casually stole the bento and ate it herself. After lunch, Himari asked Saito for help with her studies. Saito didn't mind, but Himari took the chance to invite him to her house. Hearing this, Akane could no longer stay silent. She quickly interrupted, "You and Saito alone? That's too dangerous. He'll definitely take advantage of you." In response, Himari invited Akane to come along too. Just then, Shizuya appeared and Himari, completely unfazed, suggested comfortable, while Akane's jealousy was about to explode. To change the mood, they started playing card games. Akane was fired up, determined to win against Himari. However, Saito effortlessly won every round. When Himari suggested another match, Saito lost interest and excused himself, saying he'd go buy some snacks. Noticing something was off with his mood, Akane followed him. Sato's family was known for having unique abilities. Shizuya had extraordinary mental calculation skills, while Saito had an exceptional memory. As a child, his ability to recall even the smallest personal details made people uneasy. He must have been bewitched by Himari's beauty. "That's why you made such a careless mistake," she then grumbled. "You always help Himari study, but you've never taught me anything." Saito sighed. "I wanted to teach you before, but you always refused." Before Akane could respond, the lights in the house suddenly went out. Terrified, Akane instinctively jumped into Sato's arms. The next day, Saito realized that the power outage had only affected his house. He quickly figured out that it was Shizuai's doing. Honest was too powerful. Saito felt his heart skip a beat. That evening, as promised, Saito began tutoring Akane. She insisted on pulling an all-nighter to study. Curious, Saito asked, "Why are you so determined to study? Why do you want to become a doctor so badly?" Akane then opened up about her past. She had once witnessed her sick older sister suffer without treatment due to their family's poverty. From that moment, she vowed to become a doctor. The next day, Saito invited Akane to go out together over the weekend. Akane eagerly accepted the date and later sought advice from her grandmother on what to do. Hearing that Akane was going on a date, her grandmother was so touched that she teared up. She then led Akane to a dressing room specially prepared for her and carefully Saito had ever seen Akane dressed like that. A store clerk even mistook him for someone with ulterior motives. Their first stop was a karaoke lounge. Akane instinctively thought that couples kissed in such places, as Himari had once told her that dating couples always kissed when they went to karaoke together. Two of them browsed for songs and ended up picking the same one, a song they both loved. They then started singing a duet. After leaving the karaoke lounge, they took a break. His mental state was a bit questionable, but he was thoroughly enjoying himself. Noticing this, Saito said, "If you want it, why not buy it?" Akane shook her head. "No way, it's too expensive. I'll wait until I'm an adult and earn my own money." Not long ago, Saito voluntarily suggested visiting his sister's house. Later, she casually changed clothes in front of Saito, feeling no embarrassment due to their close relationship. Shizuai wanted to play a vampire game with Saito's aunt, going as far as leaving hickeys on Saito. Seizing an opportunity, Saito voiced his wish to work at his aunt's company, hoping to earn money for a gift for his wife. Shizuai, feeling jealous, realized that Sato's visit wasn't about spending time with her, but about buying something for another woman. Meanwhile, his aunt disapproved of his lack of responsibility, reminding him that he was bound to inherit the family business, and questioning his decision to marry an ordinary girl. Though she didn't say outright, it was clear that she had always hoped for Shizuai to become Sato's bride. Coincidentally, the company had a translation job available, but the language was so obscure that no translator could be found. His aunt believed Saito could master in 3 days, but Saito confidently claimed he only needed 1 night. Upon witnessing this, Akane was shocked to realize that quantum reading truly existed. Within just a short while, Saito had already grasped most of the language and only needed 1 night's rest to solidify his memory. During Sato's work, Shizuai clung to him constantly, even stealing kisses from time to time. She justified it by saying that keeping her company was also part of his duty as her. Saito knew she was salted because he was buying a gift for Akane. Still, she understood his desire to make Akane happy, even if it meant spending less time with her. Feeling lonely after his marriage, she longed for his attention, just like by the time Saito returned home, it was already late at night. Akane, detecting another woman's scent on him, immediately sought advice from her grandmother. Understanding both Sato's popularity and Akane's stubborn nature, her grandmother advised her to always be honest with herself. Later, Akane discovered that the scent on Saito was identical to Shizuai's. That night, Saito didn't even return home for dinner. When Akane tried to contact him, she realized she didn't have his number. Luckily, the family phone had Shizuai's home number. However, when she called, it was Shizuai's mother who answered. His aunt refused to let Saito take the call, saying he was busy. His aunt was confused. Why did Akane care so much when their marriage was arranged? Later, she realized that Saito had never told Akane about his part-time job. When Saito finally returned home, Akane immediately questioned why he hadn't answered his phone. Saito, confused, was accused of playing dumb. Akane assumed he was avoiding her calls to spend time with Shizuai. If that was the case, why didn't he just marry Shizuai and inherit the— Only after his reminder did Akane realize she had forgotten to take off the ring, but she stubbornly denied it was because she liked it. for now and playfully suggested that Akane give her the ring. Akane refused, saying she liked it too much. However, when she got home, Akane was horrified to find that her bag were searching for it, but to no avail. Though Shizai had suggested she could just buy another one, Akane dismissed the idea. That ring was a gift from Saito, determined to find it before Saito noticed. Akane continued her search, but her efforts were in vain. Sensing her distress, Shizai approached Akane and assured her that she wouldn't tell life would become chaotic again. Shizai hoped for her brother to have a peaceful life, but Akane refused. Under no circumstances could Saito find out. Immediately, he smelled the aroma of seafood curry. Recognizing it from Akane, he guessed she had cooked it. When he asked where Akane was, Shizai kept her promise and refused to say. If he wanted to know, he would have to follow her himself. The next day, Saito secretly followed Akane and finally discovered what she had been doing. At that moment, he realized he hadn't seen her wearing the ring for the past few days. Approaching her, he gently told her that he felt bad seeing her struggles so much. If she liked it that much, he would just buy her another one. But that wasn't the point at all. For Akane, the ring was no longer something money could buy, because it represented true feelings. Even though her marriage to Saito was forced, the ring was given with sincerity. No matter what, she had to find it. Saito agreed to help and learned that the ring was lost the day Akane brought it to school. That same day, something completely unexpected happened. Saito was suddenly confessed to by a girl named Meiho. Meiho asked Saito to go out with her, leaving Saito in disbelief. Meiho warned that if Saito didn't do as she said, she couldn't guarantee what might happen next. Instant noodles, even though she would be scolded for eating them at home. Saito could relate. When Saito was only concerned about the photo causing trouble, Meiho then mentioned that she had heard Saito accidentally pushed Meiho, who immediately cried out in pain. Akane quickly apologized, only to realize Meiho was faking it. Saito was dumbfounded. Too close, Meiho decided she would stay over. However, with Meiho living under the same roof, Saito started feeling nervous. But Meiho twisted Saito's words, teasing that he was planning something perverted. Then just as Akane opened the fridge, she was startled. Shin Saito big brother, when she was the only one who had that privilege. Meiho smugly explained that since Saito was Akane's husband, Shizai pouted, insisting that Saito was her brother first. To settle the dispute, Shizai challenged Meiho to a charm contest to see who was the most fitting sister for Saito. Meiho immediately surrendered. Shizai was just too cute. She even admitted that she'd love to have Shizai take her place and marry Saito. After all, their grandmother and Saito's grandfather were just trying to force them together to make up for their unfulfilled love story. Meiho was willing to replace Akane in the marriage, and even promised to persuade their grandmother to pay for Akane's tuition as a reward. Akane hesitated, worried that her sister wouldn't be able to get along with Saito because he was extremely arrogant and always looked down on those around him. However, Meiho didn't mind. Saito was smart but also cute. Even though he couldn't cook and always stocked up on instant noodles, he shared her love for ramen. Akane was troubled. Didn't her sister want to marry someone she truly loved? But to her surprise, Saito's looks were exactly Meiho's type. Meiho's a good girl. Seeing that Akane didn't outright reject her idea, Meiho happily went off to get closer to Saito. Though Akane said nothing, deep down, and considering that Akane both despised Saito and adored her, it was obvious who she would believe. Meiho boldly proposed to take Akane's place in marriage and declared that she was willing to dedicate herself to Saito in every way, as long as he agreed. Afterward, Saito was left mentally exhausted. Meiho was just too energetic. Akane, on the other hand, was genuinely happy. Saito was confused. Why was she asking this? And if he did want to separate, would Akane agree to it? During the day, Akane forced herself up, admitting she had been faking it. Saito was furious. What if she really got sick one day and no one believed her? Just a minute's delay in calling an ambulance could have serious consequences. Saito firmly told her never to joke about something like that again. So Saito quickly grabbed 2 room keys and locked himself in his room. However, Saito eventually had no choice but to let Meiho in. Seeing that she was still trying to misbehave and compensate him with herself, Saito, exhausted, reluctantly let her stay. He relied on medication to function properly, but because of everything that happened the night before, she hadn't taken it and was now paying the price. She refused to call an ambulance, fearing that if her family found out, Akane would discover the truth. Saito had no choice but to left quickly, but before he did, Meiho begged him not to tell Akane. Since childhood, her poor health had always burdened Akane, and Meiho didn't want to trouble her any further. Saito agreed to keep the secret. Later, Saito planned to stay at Shizui's house. When Shizui heard that Saito and Akane had a huge fight, she immediately wanted to pick Saito up. Meanwhile, Akane asked where Meiho had gone. Their parents simply said she had gone on another trip. But Akane didn't believe them. Now, she wasn't answering her phone or replying to messages. When Saito said Meiho would come back eventually, Akane realized that he knew the truth. Saito later secretly brought some snacks for Meiho, assuming Akane had always bought them for her before. However, Akane would never buy unhealthy junk food. Saito was confused. How could someone so physically weak still travel the world? Meiho confessed that she was actually terrified. She feared the day when she might be bedridden again, the day she might suddenly die. That's why she wanted to experience everything she had dreamed of as a child before it was too late. Besides, as long as she was traveling and appeared healthy, Akane wouldn't worry. If her condition worsened, Akane wouldn't even know. Saito finally understood. Meiho was hiding her struggles for Akane's sake. At first, Saito thought Meiho was just jealous of him for taking her sister, but in reality, all she wanted was for Akane to be happy. Meiho admitted it. Akane used to constantly talk about how much she hated the top student in her class, how frustrated she was that he always took first place. Now, that very person was being forced to marry her. It was unfair. Instead of making Akane suffer, Meiho would rather take her place, so Akane could pursue what she truly wanted. However, she never expected that her actions would make Akane this angry. Now, she only feared one thing, that Akane would never love her again. Meiho couldn't understand why Saito was being so kind to her, but of course, she too had been longing for this. A week later, Meiho confessed to Akane about everything she had witnessed that day. Despite all her attempts to seduce Saito, Saito had been too shocked to react at all. With the misunderstanding cleared up, Akane decided to let Saito off the hook and didn't want Meiho to sacrifice herself for her anymore. The identity of the girl Saito had met when he was younger. If Saito wanted to know, he had to give her a kiss first. Saito had been overheard. Rumors of Akane and Saito living together quickly spread. To keep their relationship a secret, Akane followed her best friend's advice and let Himari pretend to be Saito's girlfriend. However, it turned out that Himari had her own agenda and used the opportunity for her own gain. Akane found herself unexpectedly jealous and hoped Himari would end the act, but his pride wouldn't let her say it outright. One day, Akane absent-mindedly told Saito to go home in front of their classmates. Himari overheard and blurted out that they were living together. Akane quickly denied it, saying that if he stayed with Saito, even he would turn into useless trash. Saito also denied having any interest in a reckless woman like Akane. From that moment on, they lived under constant scrutiny. Saito worried that the paparazzi might track them home and uncover the truth. The situation escalated to the point where they were afraid to leave the house, even for groceries. They were on the verge of starving. But then, strange noises came from the second floor. Fearing an intruder was hiding in the bed, Akane panicked and grabbed a baseball bat, ready to strike first. Saito stopped her, but in their struggle, they accidentally got tied up on the bed. Just then, Himari arrived and apologized for causing the situation to spiral out of control. However, both Akane and Saito felt guilty for hiding the truth in the first place. Himari offered to make amends by doing anything they wanted. Saito also apologized for deceiving her, but Himari had already suspected the truth for a long time. Their matching lunchbox contents, the same shampoo scent, and Sato's familiarity with the house all pointed to one conclusion. This was a strategic marriage. Saito was stunned. Had Himari read the script? He had no choice but to confess that their grandparents were former lovers who couldn't be together. To make up for the past, they had forced Saito and Akane to marry. Himari was thrilled. Since their marriage wasn't based on love, he still had a chance. But first, they had to resolve the rumors. Shizui's girlfriend. But since they were already close, no one found it unusual. Shizui suggested a bolder move. Meiho volunteered, but Saito refused outright, unsure what Meiho might try to pull. In the end, it was up to Himari to play the role. Just the thought of being Sato's girlfriend made Himari ecstatic beyond words. Akane could only watch as everything unfolded. That night, she warned Saito not to take the act too far. The next lunch with him, and showering him with public displays of affection. After eating, she even suggested they find a place to be alone and do what couples do. Saito agreed to go along with anything, as long as it remained within the boundaries of a fake relationship. Himari eagerly requested a hug. She had always envied how Shizui got to be in Sato's arms. However, the pose recalled even tighter for realism.
いつまでこうしてたらいいんだ?
わかんない。もう少しだけ。
Saito too timing. Himari quickly covered, saying that her previous comments about them living together had been a joke. She had only been jealous of how close Saito and Akane were. With the class now fully supporting their relationship, Himari was overjoyed. Now, they were officially recognized as a couple. Only one person was unhappy. Akane couldn't take it anymore. She awkwardly criticized them, saying they were like a pair of idiot lovers, which only made Himari even more flustered. Soon, the fake couple had their first official date. They unexpectedly, Saito planned to go home. However, Himari invited him over, saying her cat could do backflips. Saito found it inconvenient and declined. But just as Himari looked disappointed, Saito turned back and agreed to stay for a few more hours. Inside Himari's room, Himari returned in loungewear and showed him that their class group chat was still buzzing about their relationship. She insisted. Himari opened up about her childhood bullying and how Akane had saved him. She didn't want to be a burden to Akane anymore, so she studied psychology to gain control over situations and make people like her. Her family was never home, making her feel abandoned. Saito found it relatable. He, too, was someone his parents left alone. She immediately lost her cool and called Himari. She pretended to be concerned, suggesting that if it was too exhausting, Himari could stop. But Akane's jealousy was painfully obvious. Himari smirked and agreed. If Akane was jealous, she would stop acting. That day, Saito suddenly asked for Akane's contact information. Akane obediently complied. Saito was delighted. However, to avoid being discovered by others at school, Akane planned to save Sato's contact name as idiot or fool. At noon, Saito skillfully dodged an attack from Mafuyu. Mafuyu explained that it was to train her evasion skills. Saito was truly impressed. His two younger sisters had learned to coordinate their attacks. While he was being relentlessly ambushed by Mafuyu, Shizui was focused on devouring her meal. Saito had a question for Mafuyu. He'd known the answer all along. Questioned what Saito intended to do once he found out. Saito, however, had no intention of searching for that girl. He simply felt that if he didn't resolve the question, he wouldn't be able to break through his limitations. Saito knew that all the guests at that party had been acquaintances of his grandfather. Akane's age also matched. However, the girl from that night had been gentle, elegant, and had an angelic smile, completely different from Akane. Meanwhile, Saito was bombarded with messages from Akane, which only reinforced his certainty that Akane was definitely not the girl from that party. After returning home, Saito received a video call from his grandfather. Next Saturday would be his grandaunt's 70th birthday, and the entire family would be gathering for a banquet. Saito was aware that she was the powerful figure holding the family together. If Saito wanted to inherit the family business, he absolutely could not be at odds with her. Hearing voices, Akane came over to check, thinking that Saito was talking to himself out of loneliness. Saito explained that his grandfather had just called and invited him to attend the birthday banquet. He then extended an invitation to Akane, wanting to introduce her to his relatives. To reassure her, he framed it as simply going to enjoy a feast. However, Akane wasn't mentally prepared for this. Upon learning that Shizuai's mother would also be attending, her expression darkened, making it clear that she had no intention of going. Saito worried that if he wasn't home that day, Akane might feel lonely, but Akane stubbornly insisted that she wouldn't. On the day of the banquet, Saito guessed that the person Akane was conflicted about was Aunt Riko. When Saito's grandfather saw him arriving alone, he curiously asked why his wife was period of their newlywed life. Even his grandaunt was speechless, telling the old man to restrain himself a little. Saito was amazed. After all, the only person in the world capable of reprimanding his grandfather was her. Saito wanted to ask her to scold his grandfather into annulling this absurd marriage. However, he was unaware that she had already decided to support him and his wife for life. Marrying Akane wasn't a loss for Saito at all. Instead, he was told to keep his wife happy. That being this, Shizuai blushed, an extremely rare sight. Shizuai, puzzled, asked if Saito truly didn't care at all. However, compared to his grandfather's constant teasing, this level of pressure was nothing. At the same time, Akane invited Himari over to keep her company. Himari, delighted, expressed his hope that no matter what happened in the future, they would remain best friends. That day, the two besties made cupcakes together, and Himari immediately took a photo to send to Saito. Akane was shocked to learn that they had already exchanged contact information. Internally, she cursed Saito as a flirt. Seeing Akane suddenly fall silent, Himari probed, asking if he should delete Sato's contact. Akane's true opposite of liking wasn't hate. Afterward, Akane planned to focus on her studies while Saito wasn't around, but she couldn't stop herself from repeatedly checking their chat history. Meanwhile, Shizuai had already fallen asleep at the banquet. Left with no choice, Saito carried her back to the room. A maid suggested that Saito stay overnight, saying that Shizuai would be happy to see him when she woke up. Just then, Saito suddenly received a call from Akane. Still stubborn as ever, she claimed she had called because she couldn't sleep without arguing with Saito. She demanded that he come home immediately. After spending the night alone, Akane had grown anxious, terrified that there were ghosts or cockroaches in the house. Suddenly, she heard a strange noise from outside the window. Panicked, she grabbed a Later, Saito explained that the front door had been locked, and no one had answered the intercom. Akane then realized she had been wearing headphones the whole time. She was speechless. Why did you come back? Weren't you supposed to stay out for the night? Although Saito had intended to stay out, he had taken multiple buses back home because, in the end, he also couldn't sleep without arguing with Akane. Feeling embarrassed, Saito quickly cut off the conversation. As Saito took a shower, Akane sneaked into the bathroom. She wanted to chat with him about the events of the banquet. Seeing that Saito wasn't responding, she realized he must have been truly exhausted. At that moment, Saito wore a look of disbelief. Tonight, Akane had been so close to him that her sounded just like the girl from the party. Saito was horrified to discover that his usually fierce, tiger-like wife was unusually gentle today. Not only did she give him a happy smile, but she also wanted to watch a movie with him. Something was definitely off, but the moment Saito replied to a message from her best friend, Akane exploded in anger. He suspected she was jealous, and also started to wonder if she was the girl he had met at a childhood party. He asked her why, despite never meeting before. She had greeted him with long time no see when they started high school. Akane avoided answering. It turned out that during that past party, Akane had stepped out onto the balcony to escape the suffocating atmosphere and had met Saito there. Their time together had been short, but Saito had left an impression as strong as a first love. However, after that day, they never met again until their entrance exams. When she saw Saito again, she worked hard to enter the same high school as him. On the first day of school, she excitedly greeted him, only to have Saito frown and ask who she was. Feeling crushed, Akane had since made it her mission to clash with him at every turn. Outside the door, Saito sensed her unhappiness and decided to cook her a meal. On his way to buy ingredients, he stumbled upon Himari being harassed and immediately stepped in to help. Afterward, he learned that Himari didn't want to go home due to conflicts with her stepmother. Seeing her so downhearted, Saito sat with her, and in that moment, Himari's heart melted.
くれるって言ってたよね。
おう。
私、これがいいな。
The next day, Meiho teased a distracted Saito, only to realize that the person he had kissed wasn't Akane. Later, Himari found Saito, sent his younger sisters away, and shamelessly tried to seduce him, since she had already taken his first kiss. Doing it a few more times didn't seem to matter. When Akane arrived at school, she saw paparazzi photos of Himari and Saito kissing. Unable to accept it, she stormed out of the classroom. That evening, when Saito came home and saw Akane in a bad mood, he brought her favorite dessert to cheer her up.
このままじゃダメ。
Determined, Akane arranged to meet her best friend for a confrontation. She immediately demanded that Himari break up with Saito, but Himari dropped all pretense. She knew that Akane and Saito's marriage was just for show, so she wouldn't back down unless Akane gave her an undeniable reason.
好きだから。
だから何？
何って。
茜はサイト君と喧嘩ばっかりしてた。
Himari revealed that she had liked Saito for a long time and didn't think Akane had the right to compete with her. Left with no choice, Akane admitted that she had known and liked Saito since she was 12. A heated argument ensued. Himari had realized Akane's feelings for Saito back in their first year of high school. Even though she knew how to win Saito over, she had restrained herself for 2 years. Now, she couldn't hold back any longer and was looking for the right moment to make Saito hers. Eventually, they reached a truce, agreeing to compete fairly.
サイドに好きになってもらえるように
遠慮しないからね。
手加減なんて失礼なことしたら。
As for Sato's first kiss, although he was clueless, Shizuai knew the truth. Himari wasn't actually the one who had taken it. Sato's first kiss had already been stolen long ago.